So having played the Delta Force Alpha, I have to say there's a couple things that we have to talk about and think about when playing this game. First off, let's focus on Delta Force itself. You have to admire that in the alpha state, it is already in such a good state for game-wise and content-wise. Compared to something like Battlefield 2042, it is better than it was at launch, and yet we only have a couple of maps and operators. And while the first impression I had for this game wasn't the best because of the operators and just knowing how it worked as specialists in Battlefield, I just felt like I would rather have something more like Battlefield 3 and 4. But they're implemented very nicely. I just wish it wasn't a clone versus clone situation like we had in Battlefield. The same operators are on different sides, but other than that, the game is really nice. Operators are really nicely put into the game. They don't feel overpowered, yet they all have their distinct functions and they still feel really team-oriented and also have that feel of the classes, while still being distinctive enough and being like the specialist hero shooter. And while the game only is on PC at the moment, so it's not my preferred style of game, I would rather play on a controller and on a big screen, well, I still have a lot of time in this game already, and I have to say it's incredibly well done for an alpha. And to be honest, if it released as it is right now, I think a lot of people would see like it is something normal, but you have to acknowledge the fact that it's only an alpha and they still have time to add more. Also, they even stated that they're ahead of schedule in terms of their work, and here is a difference between Battlefield and Delta Force, where Battlefield 2042 was supposedly also ahead of its, dev cycle. Well, it turned out that it wasn't really the truth. When it came out, it was pretty horrible. It wasn't as good as we expected it to be from the first trailer. All the time after release, it was only pretty much trying to get it back into a playable state. And once they did it, they pretty much canceled the game. And here in Delta Force, I can actually understand how they could be on the third season of the game. You see, even in the alpha, they already added an operator, and I feel there's gonna be one more. Don't quote me on this, but I feel like there is one more for the medic. There is just a coincidence that for some reason they left only one medic and one engineer or support and then added one of them. And we still have just one medic. I feel like that might be one more in the alpha test. They also already added maps for the extraction mode, which is incredible in itself, and I cannot wait to play it on a bigger screen on my TV, on my PS5, but also Battlefield mode, the all-out warfare essentially, is amazingly well done. Other than maybe the helicopters not being as good as they could be in terms of just controls, but other than that, the gameplay is really good. It just feels like an improvement over the Battlefield in the recent years. It's like the same kind of vision, and a lot of it feels so similar both in looks and feels, but it just feels like it's something that is made better. And just looked at the other game and said, you know what, we can do it better. But coming back to the title of this video, I feel like Delta Force can be an FPS done right if they don't go in the wrong direction. They have the fundamentals. They have two great game modes for online play. Both of them are distinct enough and much different to each other, but it's also nice because you can play in one single game two different kind of games. Essentially, you could be, when you don't want to play the extraction, you don't want to be as tense, you just want to go around and shoot, you can go to the bigger war game mode. But if you actually wanted to, for example, wanted to play a little bit more tactical and you wanted to go into the extraction game mode, you still can play in the same game and the same mechanics and with the same operators. So it's really cool how you can have like a hub of different games that are essentially the same game but different, kind of like we had in Call of Duty Warzone with DMZ, but that never really went longer than the first year. The main thing is, if they can actually hold on to what they're already doing, that is going to be amazing. And if they don't implement the other things that make the other games not as enjoyable as they once were. We're in an era of pretty underwhelming FPS games, where games like Warzone lost their charm, and Call of Duty in general just has like all those different cartoonish and just outlandish kind of skins that don't really fit the theme. Essentially, Call of Duty lost its theme. I feel like Modern Warfare in 2019 really brought the gritty and nice tone to the game, and the Warzone at the beginning was really nice for that. But ever since that, I feel like they lost touch with it. With all the different new skins, I would say from the Cold War era onwards, it just went into just like all these different kind of collabs that don't really have any meaning to it. At least if they try to make it more realistic, I would say, a little bit more military. If you remember the very start of Modern Warfare and then the Warzone, the skins were milsim. They were a simulation of military. Even if they were a little bit more creative, they still made it look and feel like it was a real soldier on a battlefield. But here we have a situation where it went all the way in the wrong direction. And I just feel like Delta Force cannot do the same thing. I feel like a lot of us wouldn't want them to go in that direction. You have like a Sergeant Cat running around, a Homelander, and all of those things. While I love the boy show, I don't want it to be in my shooter. So while I understand they need to have microtransactions, make them milsim, make them make sense in that world and make them make sense in that war. So it all has like its own theme, its own niche. It feels like there's some identity, something that Call of Duty has lost, and I feel like Battlefield did lose it a little bit too, because it went into like the hero shooter instead of being like 64 players, all of those being just a normal soldier fighting for something. They could have done way better if they just did something like Battlefield 4 or 3 and gave us microtransaction in terms of different skins for different specific roles. But that would still keep us in the roles, but also give us a milsim kind of skin. Also, give us some that we can work towards too. Like we always had different skins that we could unlock by gameplay. So Delta Force can really be the FPS done right in 2024. They have the perfect opportunity, while the biggest competitors, being the Battlefield and Call of Duty in a way, are both in a wrong spot at the moment. They can really take the audience from those games into it, especially those that want to play a little bit more of a traditional shooter without those over-the-top skins, over-the-top movement, and overall just the theme and niche of those games. If they keep what they're doing with the alpha, then we are in the right spot for another amazing FPS game. And I cannot wait to see it on the consoles and how it releases globally. I feel like Delta Force has so much potential, so I hope, and I'm crossing my fingers, that they actually deliver what they're showing us they can deliver, and don't stray from this path. This was a little bit different kind of a video than normally, but I still hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any other thoughts about this, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, that is gonna be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.